one at a time, and learners should practice it before going on to another. Yes or no? It agree, disagree, kind of? You don't know? I don't know. So when you, teachers should present. So you are in a school. Because you are working with the simple present, does that mean that you only speak in the simple present? Okay. So there are two things. What you teach and what you expose the children, right? So what you teach, usually it's better to focus around one. You do isolate because you're teaching the language itself and you isolate the grammatical point. That's okay. And you practice, but it doesn't mean that you move to another. You can move on to another and come back to that one. Language is not linear. It's like this. We learn like this. Always coming back to the beginning, and then we go. Okay? But it doesn't mean that you have to grade the language. We underestimate children, guys. They understand. They come and say, I don't understand, but they will. You don't have to translate and say, because they will eventually get it. Okay? So, yes, you should present when working with the language, but exposed to everything, to natural language. Does that make sense? Okay? How about teachers should teach simple language structures before more complex ones?
I agree.
You agree? Everybody agree? That's what we usually do. It makes sense. But you know, when children are learning English as a first language, you know the S or the third person, it's the last thing they learn. They learn a certain order of WH questions because it makes sense in terms of content. For instance, where is it and who and what are the first WH, because when children are growing up, that's what makes sense. But why is and when is more difficult. Children have a hard time with timing, okay? My son is 6 now, and he's starting to grasp the idea of how long does it take? I said, Mamãe, olha no Waze. Everything, like, are we there yet? Doesn't exist. Quantos minutos faltam? Olha no Waze. Okay, but when we travel and etc. Oh, 60. So he knows a little bit. So those are the when is the last WH that will make sense to them when they're learning. So yes, we do have an order of complexity. But again, to link to the first one, exposure. You should expose to everything. To be exposed to natural language. I see some people copying. I'm going to make this available, okay? So you can have the PDF of all the contents later. And I'll make it shorter just with the content so you don't have to worry. Now, errors should be corrected as soon as possible as they are made in order to prevent the formation of bad habits. What do you think? Do you correct? Like, you make a mistake, you correct? Or you wait? No? Wait, why?
Because I think if you correct just like a children, he's just speaking, learning to speak. Mm-hmm. And then you say like this, how are you today? And the children say, eu tô happy. Mm-hmm. And then you correct, no, I am happy. The children will be like,
not happy anymore.
Yes, not happy anymore. Because I think if you correct it at that time, I think it's wrong. I don't know how to explain, but I think it's easier if we do like this. The children said, eu tô happy. And then you say, oh, are you happy? And then you complete in English. And then if the children ask you, and then you can answer correctly, I am happy. And the children will start to learn and will not be interrupted or feel like shy or intimidated by you.
This you're completely right. You got the point of what makes a difference in this with adults and children and teenagers. Children they're much more open sometimes when you correct, but when they say eu tô happy and they are happy, are you going to spoil it by correcting? Right? So it's the affective filter is much higher, and you need to be careful about correction. And they don't form bad habits. They eventually get it. But again, you need to be sensible. You need to be aware of the purpose of the activity. Okay, if it's a drilling, if it's something that they need to produce correctly, maybe it's so. But if it's something that they're very happy, they're sharing, so maybe you step back. And it doesn't form bad habits eventually, unless you let it. Because if it's recurrent, maybe you need to pay attention to that. Okay? But the correction doesn't have to be on spot. It can be later. It can be in other ways. The bad habit will form if you let it go. But teachers should only expose the students to language they already know.
Excuse me, on the previous one, if we correct the right on the spot, if the students are speaking, we cut the sequence of phrases.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Exactly. The fluency depends on the kind of activity you're saying. So teachers should only expose the students to language they already know? No. This is a fact, right? If you only do what you already know, how are you going to grow and progress, right? How are you going to go up? It doesn't have to be like a physics class for a 3-year-old, right? But you need to give some challenge. Okay, this is one that everybody agrees, and there's proof, there's theory, there's research that this doesn't make sense. And now I think we have the ones. Oh, here is the one that I copied wrong. So let's do this one together. When working freely, pair work, group work, students learn each other's mistake. Do you think because he said something wrong, I will start saying something wrong because he's my peer and we are working in pairs? Do you think they learn each other's mistakes?
Like, okay, you don't do make a cake. Normally you do bake a cake, so let's try again. And then the pair works. The good student corrects more the bad student, then they are influenced by mistakes.
Yeah, this is you got the point. Research shows that they learn the correct ones. They don't learn the mistakes. They correct themselves. They improve themselves with each other. This is something it took me a while to understand, because why would you put pair work if I'm not modeling the right one? And it's amazing how much they learn from each other. We learn from our peers. They learn from each other. They correct each other. Okay? And they don't learn the mistakes. They know if you expose them to the right models in class, when they're working together, they are able and they're capable to correct each other. Okay? So this is amazing. Do not underestimate pair work, guys. And let them talk. You are not going to not interfere, but you're not going to be able to control everything and listen to everybody. But when it's a mess and everybody's talking, it's chaos, it's okay. A little bit of chaos, everybody talking, they learn. Okay? Oh, some students enrolate. Né? Enrolate is not a word in Portuguese, okay? But some students are, but that's okay. But the ones who need to learn will learn. Okay? And students learn what they're taught. Students only learn what you teach them.
Excuse me, students only learn
What they are taught. Just what you teach them. So if you teach the present perfect, that's what they're going to learn. Nothing else. No. It happens that they learn what they're not taught. They learn something else. And they don't learn what you teach them. Right? The other thing. So no, it's not up to us. They learn. There are a lot of variables on how and why they learn. But it's not your teaching that will make sometimes the difference. It's not, of course, it will make a difference. But what I mean to say is that they also learn things that you don't teach them. They learn from each other, and from TV, and from games, and etc. Okay? Okay, guys. So we finished the discussion. Those are from the book I told you, How Languages Are Learned. But now we are going to keep talking about the learning process. But now, what are the 4 skills again? Listening, speaking, writing, and reading. Yeah, very good. 4 skills. We all learn, we all teach, we all want them to develop them. So here they are. Why do you think I separated them like this? What does listening and reading have in common than with speaking and writing?
The active one.
You receive information and you receive.
Ah, okay. Those are the receptive skills, right? That the ones that we listen, they're less active, less interactive. And those are the productive skills, right? Those are the... So imagine that you were teaching children, right, in your class, and you are going to teach them a set of words. It's vocabulary lesson. You're teaching food, fruit, and you're teaching banana, apple, grapes, watermelon, lemon. Okay? Usually you have a group of 6 words that you usually teach. But anyways, so you're teaching those. What would be the first skill that we have to work with the students when you're presenting? Listening. And then what do you get them to do? Very good. And then you get them to speak. Okay? Then, what is the third one? Reading. And then you ask them to write. Very commonly, been there, done that thousands of times, okay? Don't worry about it. We're going to teach vocabulary. We write the words on the board to teach them. This is something that I changed in my teaching practice, even with adults. I don't write. I will write eventually. But first, you work with the listening and speaking. Because once they read, they might read it wrong, but they will recognize the word when they see it. So there is all the receptive and the productive skills. And this is how we teach. This is the best order that helps them in the learning process. Okay? There are some schools, they have a methodology in which you cannot write. It's just speaking. With adults, that's debatable, because I am, as an adult learner, I like to write and read. Okay, let's work with the oral and listening and speaking, but write the word over there. I'm very visual. I need to see it. But children, they won't ask you to see the word. They won't want to say, they want to practice. So in order to help the learning process, every time you work, and this is good for vocabulary, especially vocabulary and grammar. When you're teaching them something new, work with the listening, then the speaking, ask them to practice, then you worry about putting on the board or showing, and writing will be the last part. Okay? And try to fight the urge to write, because when we teach children, sometimes we want them to write something on their notebooks or workbooks because we want parents to see. Because parents won't see the interaction in class. And that's okay. But focus more on the first ones, because those are more communication for children. Okay? Remember, we are talking about the process, the learning process for children. Okay. Now.
First of all, which age do you tell children?
That's a very good question. I meant to say that we are going to discuss a little bit further different ages, but children is usually from 6 to 10. Then they are preteens and adolescents. And the young children, very young children, which are from up to 5. 3 to 5, 2 to 5. But up to now, it's from young learners and children we are talking about. We're going to see a couple of differences in another exercise, okay, that is applicable for the young learners and not so much for the older children. Okay? Now, another thing that sometimes we underestimate is how we put our classroom. This is not ideal, by the way, okay? But that's what we have. I would make this completely different to make this discussion work. And I assure you, I'm like 100% that if you were facing each other, you would be talking more. This is not. But for children, this is very effective, and it helps the learning process. Am I saying that you need to change your class every classroom and in the middle of the classroom? No, because that's completely impossible. because that's all you're going to do. You're not going to teach. You're just going to move chairs around. But think about an objective. Think about your learning goals. Think about what you want to accomplish in that class. And think about how you're going to put the chairs and desks. So what I want you to do right now is we have 7 different arrangements here, right? And I want you to think of one activity that would be good for this type of arrangement. P is for pupil, because this is from a magazine called English Teaching Professional, ET Professional. And it's British, so P is for pupil, okay? So those are the students.
There are differences between the young learners, the speaker, and since when we are called student?
Oh, no, it's for now, pupil and student is the same, okay? Yeah, pupil is just because it's British. British, they like pupil's book, you can see on course books, or student's book, okay? But pupils is usually children. You don't say it for adults. But those are the students. And so, if the teacher is here and the chairs are like this is good when I'm doing text. Yeah, the problem. Number 2, this is good when I'm doing I'll give you like 1 minute. Write 1 to 7 and think of an activity that is good for this classroom arrangement. Okay? Just one minute, guys. Write it on a piece of paper. So and then you can do it in pairs if you want, or alone. So let's see. The first one. This one. All right, somebody already said it. Test. Test, right? This is very common. For test, teacher has better control of the class. You can see everybody. Well, yes, we can, because when we were students, we thought the teacher couldn't see, but we can see everything. We thought that, you're texting and etc. Well, in my case, with the little notes that we used to write. But anyways, and for individual activities. So when you want students to focus on something they need to do alone, this is a good arrangement of the class. So that's why testing. So this is like a traditional one. How about this one, number 2, where they sit in groups?
Groups work.
Kind of project.
Group work.
Maybe art.
Art.
Then in group, and each group will make some kind of activity or different activities for each group.
But you agree that this encourages collaboration, right? Because they're facing each other. The teacher is not the center anymore. Most preschools and first, second grades, they arrange like this. My son's class, not for English, but for they have to sit with the same group to help each other. They change groups once in a while, but in order for you that said the student that is better helps the other one that needs help, so they put it. Encourages collaboration and peer correction. Remember we were talking about, that they correct each other because they're facing, they feel more comfortable. Okay. How about number 3? Whole class discuss. The words don't matter. It's just the same idea. Very good. Presenting new language, because when you are presenting, you don't want them to be talking to each other while you're presenting something that they need to pay attention on you, but they still need some, interaction. So this is good for whole class discussion. That's what I wanted here. Okay. How about number 4? It doesn't have it. It can be the same one. Exam 2. Okay. Some individual work. There's better monitoring, which is different from control. When you're testing, you want to look what they're doing. When you need to control the class. When you're monitoring, you need to listen to what they're saying. So when you can walk around, it's different. You're not controlling. You're just monitoring. So for individual work as well, so you can help this student who needs a little bit of help without disturbing the others, okay? And again, it doesn't put the teacher in the front center. It puts him in the middle, or she, right? It puts her in the middle. How about number 5?
But there is always
It's the same thing, the number 4, but in pair work.
Okay. Okay. Number 5, can you say that again?
It's the same thing than number 4, but in pair work.
Exactly.